crazy.
The what? Sorry?
Yeah, I said crypto has been crazy this week.
Yeah, Bitcoin went up $2,000, I think, today. So that's really impressive. That's cool.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's that's hilarious.
Yeah, I actually wish we talked about it last week
Mm.
because yeah, anyways. Yeah, anyways, I'm gonna start then. Like, basically, what I was planning to do was just to go over the Bitcoin and like why it was created, just be basically doing an intro. And the main reason is that I saw that a lot of people in the group were actually interested in knowing about Bitcoin, but they don't really know what is it, right? And where to start as well. So if they want to invest in it. So that's why I was just thinking that going over basically why it was created, what is it, and how like you can start putting money in it. That would be a good thing to do. So if you have any questions, maybe you can write them in the chat. And I know, Emmanuel, you have like also good knowledge of the cryptocurrencies. So at any time, if you want to add something, or if anyone else also same thing, if you there is something that I'm missing, please just add it. All right, I'm gonna present my screen now.
Okay, perfect. We can see it.
You can see it? Okay, cool. It's just I have like my two computers, so I can't see it on my other one. But if you can see it, that's fine. If anyone else cannot see it, please just say it. So yeah, basically I'm gonna go over it. So I just wanted to go first of all like over like the history of money, right? Just in general, just so we have an idea of the cryptocurrencies. And the main reason is that it's a money, right? So it's a way that people are exchanging or are using to pay, right? So if you want to pay things, it's like normal currency. So basically, when we looked at the past of things, like how things used to be, we know that a lot of time when we look at previous monies, they are based on like a few factors, right? So every time when we think about money, we think about something that people can accept first. Oh, wait, some people are joining. Sorry. Yeah, so we think about something that like people can first of all accept in their society, because like we know that basically I'm giving you something. And basically the purpose is to exchange things, right? So I have something I can exchange to you. Then first of all, you have to accept what I'm giving you, right? So that's the main reason why we need money to make all of those transactions. And first of all, money always has to be something that a society is going to accept first. And one thing interesting is that the money has to be something that is hard to reproduce. Let me know, guys, if I'm going too fast or if you want me to go actually, if I'm going too slow too. So, exactly. So a money, something that we cannot actually reproduce, that is accepted by the society, that is also hard to find. And I would say that's mostly it. So something rare, right? So that's why when we look at the past, we see that a lot of time people used to use gold for transactions. Just find something for gold. Yeah, let me put the gold in yellow. Oops. Let me just take this one. So when we look at the past, like few years ago, like 100 years ago, people always used to use gold to make transactions, right? So going from places to places with their bag of golds and just saying, all right, I'm giving you that many coins for something else. And the thing that is really great with gold is that basically it does all of those things, right? So it was accepted by the society. it was something that was hard to reproduce. It's really, really hard to find gold, and you cannot fake gold as well, right? Like you can, of course, you can hear people do some different things, but it's really hard to fake. And it's also really rare, so it's hard to find mines. And what is great is that there is also a limit of the amount of gold on Earth, right? So that's a lot of things that are really, really interesting when we talk about money, when we think about a money that people can use, right? So the only problem that people figure out with the gold, the main issue that some people had, is the fact that, when you want to do a big transaction, let's say you want to buy a house, it's always really hard, right? Really hard to carry. It's heavy, and it's also hard to bring on a long distance, right? So if you want to buy something somewhere else, you have to carry all of your gold. So I would say some bad things about it is that it was heavy, hard to carry, and let me just put it in red. Great. So knowing all of that, we all see that basically gold has like really some nice things that people can use as a money. But there is also the fact that there is some bad things that we try to basically solve with different ways. And one way was actually going with the bank that we know right now, right? So at a point of history, what happened is that some people said, there is everyone has gold. So what the government decided to do was, all right, we're going to buy all of this gold for everyone. And what we're going to give them is a receipt saying that they own this amount of gold, and we're going to keep the gold in the bank. So they created this thing. Let me just add it. If you have any question, feel free to interrupt me at any time. So yeah, basically they created the bank. And what was really interesting with the bank is that now people were able to, the goal was maintained by the bank, right? So everything was there. And basically, when you were going to exchange your gold for money, for like that thing that I will call the receipt, right? In that case, so basically you just say, all right, I'm giving you that gold, and this is what I'm owning now, and it's just a like piece of paper saying that you own that. So basically, what with this piece of paper, what I could do was just to go somewhere else and use it for some other things. So if I want to buy something with it, I can actually give it to someone else. And now this person owns my part of gold that I have in the bank, right? So it was something really, really interesting. I'll just put the receipt in it in green. And eventually what happened, just trying to do my best drawing skills. Okay, yeah. All right. So eventually what happened is that the bank started issuing all of those papers to people to actually go and make those transactions. And one thing that was really great with all of those receipts, instead of carrying money and carrying the gold all the time, it was the fact that it was light, so easy to carry. And the thing is that it was also easy to divide as well, right? So something really easy to divide. You can just go, you have your papers, and you just give it to people. So that's why at the end, obviously this thing is the money that we know right now, right? So the paper money. So now we see that basically the paper money that we have is really based on the gold, right? That is owned in the bank. What happened after that when the bank started giving too much money? Just to make sure, Josh, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Am I going too fast? Just to make sure, like, I
No,
don't know if you have any questions.
I feel it's at a good pace here, and
Mhm.
as what Bryce is referring to, and as we come up to the modern age, was one of the reasons as to why the other main reason, the other side, I would say, as to why the bank started to have the citizens or the people give them their gold for their receipt is that they could start to have control over that. Once you start
Hmm.
giving your value to one source and they create their own currency to say now it's worth this much, now you don't have the power anymore. Now your money is based off what this central bank is saying this much gold is worth.
Hmm.
And that's really how our system works up to this very day. It started from that, where they
Hmm.
take the value from the people and they hold it, and then they say now it's worth this much money or so forth.
Hmm.
So that's the other side to the money. It's
Yeah.
there's the good side, but then also the human greed won't let things go, and
Hmm.
that's mainly why as we move to, as Bryce will touch base on the Bitcoin, why the Bitcoin has some good advantages to that.
Hmm. So yeah, thanks, Josh. So
No problem.
at this point, yeah, with the money that we see, right? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Actually,
Emmanuel? I think maybe his microphone has a problem. So
Okay.
yeah, if you have something, Emmanuel, you can maybe write it in the chat. Uh, so I'm gonna keep going. And yeah, basically that's why the money was created. So now we kind of know that it's based on goal directed by banks. And the thing that was that the bank started doing after is that, if it's only receipts, like money is only paper, then they can basically um, create papers as they want, right? And just say, okay, there is like someone needs some money, we can just give it to them, and knowing that the person is going to give it back to the bank, right? So it's not a big deal. It's just lending that money, right? So the thing is that, of course, since it's based on the goal that we have in the um, that that we have in our reserve, what's going to happen is that eventually, once we're going to have no more gold and we're going to have issued out of those papers, the bank started creating a lot more papers, right? So just giving that to people because people actually they were expecting that money back, right, all the time. So it's something to really understand. Like when countries have debts, it's really based on that, right? So lending that money always goes to debts eventually.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what happened, right? And now basically we know that how the government is. Things are a bit this way. We always hear about debts all around. But the thing that we have to know is that, yeah, people were using that money, doing all of their transactions. And the goal of that was really to like make something great. But as Josh was saying, was really directed by the bank. So directed by a central place. And when it's directed by a central entity, it's always a lot of things can go wrong, right? So if you want to do a transaction, they can even refuse a transaction for any reason. So it's always everything has to be going to them. So that's why basically what happened in the 2008, we heard about the crash. And during 2008, actually, the fact that there was the crash because of that, the bank lending too much money to people, then as they lend money, the value of the money decreases as well, right? Because we all know that everything goes with bid and ask. So if the money is less rare, then the value decreases. And that's what happened, in 2008, printing too much money. Then at the end, no one could afford anything. So there was that crash. And during
And
that time, sorry?
as I was going to point out also,
Mhm.
as Bryce mentioned, that when you print too much money, then it becomes worth less. That same principle ties into investing. When you're looking at companies, and sometimes you might hear the term outstanding shares. whereas a company can have a lot of outstanding shares. So the value of that stock will start to go down. And that's why
Mhm.
you hear companies doing buybacks or so forth to keep the value of their stocks. So they take those shares off the market. So then the shares that are currently on the market retain their value. So
Mhm.
that's another example of how money works and how it goes into stocks. The stock
Mhm.
system is very similar in that manner. Or if
Mhm.
there's too much of that stock, it becomes worth less. So
Mhm.
once, like you have companies where they're very popular and people are buying their stocks, then it's showing there's value. People want this, and there's less quantity of that stock, so it goes up in value. But when
Mhm.
people start selling it, that's the reason why the value of the stock goes down because there's so much of it and no one's doing anything with it where it loses its value. So that's the same
Mhm.
principle with the money. So when the bank or the economy starts printing too much money, you have inflation.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So that's what happened in 2008, right? And during the crash, some engineers actually started trying to find a solution to solve that issue. And that's when basically the Bitcoin appeared, right? And the Bitcoin was, I think it's an interesting story because it was created by someone called Satoshi Nakamoto. And the thing is that Satoshi Nakamoto, it's only a name, right? So no one actually knows who is this person. But the website bitcoin.com, if you want, you can go check after. I think it's bitcoin.com or .org, was created or was registered under that name, right? So that's why people assume that he was the creator of the Bitcoin. And the purpose of his project was to actually create something that can reproduce the money, right? So that has all of the things that we're looking for something that can be, first of all, accepted by the society, hard to reproduce, hard to find, rare, and limited. So that's why basically he decided to use all of the newest technologies and create this kind of algorithm that is going to reproduce all of that. And he actually succeeded. So that's when the Bitcoin started in 2008 because of the crash. And at that point, some people started. I think the first time someone used Bitcoin, someone bought like a point of pizza for like 1,000 Bitcoin or something like that. And at this point, it was really accepted just because if you're able to make one transaction with it, and from there, people started making more and more transactions, the money started getting really accepted by people. Even if no one knows actually who created it, it works and it's a lot more solid than like the money that we see here, right? So that is just printable and that you can reproduce at any time. So what is it better? That's what I'm gonna say now. Any question? Anyone?
And what would you say, or a question I have for you, Bryce, is
Hmm.
with the Bitcoin, when it first started off,
Hmm.
um, how how was it accepted? Meaning, as example, with the pizza, right? I can go to a
Hmm.
pizza shop and I can use a Visa card or a
Hmm.
debit card or cash. At
Hmm.
that time, how was the Bitcoin accepted to do
So
such a purchase?
yeah, so the thing is that, of course, the two people that made the first transaction agreed, both of them, on the Bitcoin, right? So they knew that it was great to have Bitcoin, or that it's also a currency, right? Something that they can reuse. And that's what makes the money really good. The fact that you can just keep it, you can hold it. If you want, you don't have to like use it right away. You can keep it for as long as you want. And that's why when that transaction happened, just the person knew that accepting those bitcoins can also be great for them in the future, so they can still use it. And if, let's say, the same person starts asking someone else, would you like some bitcoin because I don't have cash on me, and the other person says yes, then like some people start using it more and more. And eventually, people started using it a lot. I would say a lot of time for illegal stuff first, and I'm going to explain why illegal stuff. So the Bitcoin, how it works is that the only thing that you have to know, because I'm not going to go much into the technology of it, I don't think it's really, really important. What we have to know is just that it's a network. So it's basically all of those dots that are linked together, right? And basically every dot, it's kind of it's a person. We can see it as a person. And as a person, let's say I'm one of those dots. I have two things that are provided to me. I have what we call a public key and a private key. So those are the two things that are really, really important as someone who owns Bitcoin. That's like the only thing you have to know. So in that network, how it works is that everyone can see the public key, and the system works in the sense that when someone does a transaction, so let's say if one person sends money to another one, at this point, the entire network is going to validate the transaction. So saying this person has the right amount of money to make that transaction. And once it's sent, they're just going to accept, say, all right, this person received it. So now the money is on uh, this node now. So this person has the money now, right? So this is only how it works. I would say there is more technology on it, but it's not really important to know all of that technology. So if, let's say, someone would like to join the Bitcoin network after, the only thing that someone needs to have is the public key and the private key. So those two things. Hopefully it's not too confusing, but as I said, just a little brief, a network of things. There is two things that someone has to have to join the network. It's a public key and a private key. What's really, really important about the Bitcoin is that once you join that network, you need to remember your private key. No matter how you do it, you need to remember that key, because this is the only key that you need to know to have your money, actually, right? So no matter where you go, if you have your key, you're fine. So that's something really, really important. So if someone wants to buy Bitcoin, just have to know, remember your private key, because a lot of people lost their private key in the past, right? Especially when it started, because they're not used to it. So no, I think I said it enough. So yeah. So that's the main thing about the Bitcoin. This is literally how it works. So just to make sure that now I saw that, for instance, something like Wealth Sample and some companies are actually offering you to invest in Bitcoin. One thing that everyone should be aware of is that if you want to invest in the Bitcoin, the best way for you to invest is to actually have your private key, have your public key. Because in the past, what happened, many companies started creating like places where you can actually give them money and they're gonna invest in Bitcoin for you, right? But as I was saying, with that network, basically those companies are part of the network. So you give them money, they exchange it in Bitcoin. And then if you want to withdraw your money, they do the same thing. So they withdraw the Bitcoins and they give you the money. So what companies were doing in the past is that they were asking everyone to give them money, and then they were just going for bankruptcy. And they transferred all of the money in Bitcoin. So it was impossible to retrace them. And there is no law against all of that, right? So the Bitcoin is still, people are still working on it to make laws around it. But at the time, there was no law around it. And even now, still, it's not like, you're not like, you're really by yourself in that. So that's what happens. So just be careful. I know that this week someone asked me, actually showed me an app where you can do those transactions. You can actually put money in it and then they're gonna buy Bitcoin for you. But please just be careful because you can lose your money easily with that. if you don't know who does that. The best way for you to be protected is to know your private key, and that's it. If you go to a place and they don't give you your private key, just be careful because you don't own Bitcoin, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
And I was going to add to that, being as we mentioned with the private key,
Mhm,
it's like having your own wallet. It's your wallet where you put your money in. That's
mhm,
the private key as to what Bryce is referring to. And so, as mentioned, there are a lot of those apps that will,
What
hey,
did
so
he
we
say
need your
about the
credit
popcorn soda?
card and we
You
need
can't take it
all
off,
these
but I guess against the living
so,
room, right? So when you
okay, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah, go
so,
ahead.
they'll ask for the credit card and all this stuff. And as Bryce mentioned, you really don't know what's going on there. Whereas, as you mentioned, and I put a link in the group, I think last week was Well Simple is going to allow um, cryptocurrency exchange, which is good because they're a reputable company. They're registered within the Canadian laws, and they're not going anywhere. So you buy, nothing is going to happen with your money. Um, Going back to what Bryce was saying is that when you're going on an exchange in that manner, now I don't know fully how they're going to set it up. It could be they're going to treat it like the stock where, let's say Bitcoin is $10,000 and you go put $5,000 towards the Bitcoin. So now you own half the Bitcoin. But if you don't have the private key, or so basically, Well Simple is holding it for you. So you don't actually have ownership of the Bitcoin, but you're holding it for them. So whenever the price goes up or down, if you decide to sell, you get your money plus the gain or plus the loss, but you don't
Mhm.
actually own the Bitcoin. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really important to know the main difference between both, because if you want to own Bitcoin, you have to be part of the network. And that's the reason why the network was created, is to don't go with the middleman, right? So the bank or any other type of middleman. It's like everyone is just in the network. So one thing I would like to add also. So now we see that um, all of the monies that we use, I would say maybe in the last thousands of years, are showed in the like in this little drawing that I did. So we see that there is the gold, there is the money, and there is the Bitcoin. The bit, yeah. So you see that those three are there, right? And that's why sometimes when you look at what the banks does, and just printing so much money, and especially now during COVID, uh, if someone looked at that, they printed so much money that the value of the money is literally going to decrease, right? So there is nothing to do against that. So it's going to lose a lot of value. So that's why some people always look at other places where they can put their money, right? So they can still put it in gold because gold still has the value of gold, right? And always like it answers all of those things. It's accepted, hard to reproduce, and all. And same thing with the Bitcoin. So some people start going into Bitcoin because it's a place where they can put their money, right? If everything goes bad with the paper money that they have. Um, Other than that, so after since we hear about cryptocurrencies, just so other people know, like people know as well, is that when the Bitcoin was actually created, it's only an algorithm, and everything is what we call open source in tech. So that means that everyone can see what is it, everyone can see the algorithm, and a lot of people decided to take that algorithm and create a better version of it or a different version of it. And a better version would be something where, for instance, the number of Bitcoins that can be created is limited, right, for rarity. Some people would say, well, we don't want any limit, so they're just gonna create a money for that, and they're gonna copy the algorithm and do something different. Some other people are also gonna use the money for a different type of transaction. So I saw that in video games, and also they created their what they call their currencies, and that's what is a cryptocurrency. Just most of them are actually based on the Bitcoin. So that's why the Bitcoin is so popular. The others are just like copied of that, right? So different versions of it that people try to make accepted. But you have to know that the only one that is actually that has no owner is the Bitcoin, right? Because when people create their cryptocurrency, they buy a lot of that, right? Just to make sure that if it goes up, it's kind of an investment for them. So that's why this one is really different than the others. Yeah, I think that's mostly what I wanted to say about the Bitcoin. I don't know if you have any question, or Emmanuel, I see that you're listening. I don't know if you have anything you would like to add, actually.
One thing I would add. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just asking if he's planning to have another session, because this is definitely just the basic, and it kind of, I mean, it kind of just it give other people an idea of what Bitcoin is. And I didn't see you. I mean, you did emphasize the point, or where the risk of the paper money is and where the value of Bitcoin is. But I didn't see you kind of emphasize the other side of the cryptocurrency, like the technology that comes behind, which can make it even more profitable than just the fact that it is different from paper money. Because so I'm just asking if you have a plan to have another session where we can go deeper.
I would say if some people want to know more about the technology, I can really explain the technology. But the reason why I don't really want to talk about the technology is because it's really like new concepts, and it's something that is it's really hard to have a picture of it, right? So, like for instance, just public key, private key, something that is really used in technologies. But if you're not in technology, then it might be a bit confusing, like what is a key? And it's actually just a chain of characters. But at the same time, I don't want to go more into like, the blockchain, for instance, because I don't think that I think that it's great to know, but it might be really, really confusing. So if some people would like to, next time maybe we can go over more the technology, but I also wanted to go over how to like start with the Bitcoin, like where to go, where to get Bitcoin, how to set up your wallet and all of that, that I find a bit more important, especially also as an investor, right?
Hey, Bryce.
Okay.
I might not hurt to just kind of survey the group on direction to go from there.
Mm-hmm. Sorry? Chris, I cannot really hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
All right. No, I was just saying it might not hurt to survey the group, the WhatsApp group, and just kind of see what direction we should go from in that respect.
Yeah.
That way we can all mutually agree and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. So one thing I'm going to show you now. So basically the Bitcoin did something really great today. I'm gonna show it. Let me see. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, the Bitcoin during the like few years, actually, people were looking at this pattern, and there is something that in terms of analysis, looking at just charts. Let me delete this one. Yeah, looking at just charts, there is some patterns, right? As we talked sometimes about candlestick patterns and all of that. So we see that a lot of people were waiting actually because we see this big blue line, right? So this is called a triangle actually, and it's a known pattern. So if you want to look for it, you can just look for pattern, candlestick triangle pattern or something on Google, and you're going to find some details about it. But what was really interesting is that during many weeks, the Bitcoin was really like going, just waiting around that area. And we all knew that eventually it's going to like go up and it's going to break that blue line. And it happened today, actually, or yesterday. Yeah, today. So today that was a big jump of 12%. And from there, people really expected to like go up at this point, just like it's going to increase. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but this is really what are the expectations. We were just waiting for that. So, of course, it's a great time for someone who would like to invest in Bitcoin. But yeah, I just wanted to show that because this is something that happened today. And I wish we had the meeting kind of last week. So maybe if some people would have loved to buy Bitcoins at that time, then they would have, yeah, take advantage of that. But it's still like, I think that it's really something that you have to believe in. And you can trade it as any other currencies if you want to do Forex. You can trade like the minutes, you can trade the days if you want. But it's also great if you believe in it. And if you want to like, if you can sit long term, then eventually it might have one of the highest return, right? We don't know, but it might eventually, if you believe in the technology and like the fact that it's a new replacement for the money that we have.
Just to add to what you're saying there,
Mm-hmm.
as this is a investing group,
Mm-hmm.
it comes down to look at it like an investment, right? If you are an investor, then you buy long term, right? If you do day trading and you trade within the week, then you're more of a trader. You're not an investor. So those are the keys. So if you want to look at Bitcoin as an investment, it's a good investment, and you have to start looking into the future, have foresight to say,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of society are we now, right? We're more digital. The people coming up behind us, a generation, they're digital, so they'd be more accepting of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin is more stable than currency. Currency is government, is political. As Bryce mentioned, we need more money, let's go print it, right? Then your money becomes worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same concept as they sort of tell you this to your face, but it goes over our heads when you put your money in the bank. You put your money in the bank, your money is worthless, right? It's worth less if it's left in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the principle there. You don't want to have the money in the old school system because it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, in this group here, we're promoting, we're fostering that mentality of invest your money so it's worth more. It has value.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at Bitcoin in that manner, so you look into the future, it definitely has a place in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I agree. And like something that is really well done. Yes. Sorry, go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah, just to add what I said, when you are looking into the future of Bitcoin, I would like just to mention that recently there was something called the Bitcoin halving, which is something that is integrated in the algorithm of Bitcoin. And what it does is that it divides the supply of Bitcoin on the market by two for the miners.
Mm-hmm.
So that in 2008, for example, if a mines Bitcoin and they get like 16 Bitcoin for mining for an hour or so, when a Bitcoin halving happens, the next time, instead of getting 16, they will be getting eight only. Instead of getting 16, they get 8. The same factor happened in 2008 2018. And if you look at what happened after 2018, if you can go back on your chart here. Yeah, so if you look in 2018, right after the halving, there was a halving that happened in 2018, around April, I think. You saw the move that happened in Bitcoin. And now there is another one that happened in May this year. It was May 11th. There was a halving. So what the miners are getting now is even less than what they were getting before. And another fact is that supply is increasing as the US dollar lost. There are more people who are looking to buy Bitcoin. However, now the miners who provide Bitcoin to the market, their reward has been decreased, which means the Bitcoin on the market is now less. However, the supply has increased. That's what that can have as an effect on the currency itself.
So, something I would like to add just to make sure, because I didn't talk about mining. So basically in the Bitcoin, so in the network I was talking before, there are some, like if you want, anyone can do it. You can actually do what we call mine Bitcoin, and it's creating Bitcoin. Like if you go mining gold, you can like create Bitcoin. And basically when you, to create Bitcoins, you have to, in terms of technology, what's going to happen is that you need to solve a really hard equation. And that equation, if you can solve it first, then you're going to have a reward. So you're going to receive Bitcoin if you solve it first. So what people do for that is that if they want to like mine, they're going to buy some really good computers. And with those computers are going to do that calculation. And basically the only thing that people are doing, some people invest this way, is that they run the computer and the only thing they have to pay is the electricity of the computer. So literally, if you can solve many equations and you just let your computer run and you have to pay for your electricity, and it balances out that like you actually are profitable mining Bitcoin, it might be also a good investment. So some people were also doing that, mining Bitcoin. And that's where they are in the network. So what Emmanuel was saying is that they have a reward every time they solve an equation. And that reward was divided by 2 during the halving. Hopefully it was right, Emmanuel. Okay. Okay, that's good. So anyways, that was like a little intro about the Bitcoin. I don't know if guys, you have any question about it, if you can write it in the chat or
I'd probably even suggest, as we're here listening, sometimes what happens to me in my case is, once I finish listening and I go about my day, it's still in my head and ideas come up or questions, just write them in. And so if that happens to you and so forth, that's by all means, use that WhatsApp chat. Leave your questions in there, or if you come up with some questions right now, just drop them in, and it will help to further guide the information, knowledge as to what you guys are seeking, and further help you out in that manner as well.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So based on everything that has been said, sorry, I couldn't write it down because it might be a little long. But based on everything that has been said, so at this point, Bitcoin is pretty expensive, and I don't know for everybody else, but for the novice trader, it might be a little tough to put 11,000 into something you're not fully understanding, because I can't say I fully understand. So I guess I wanted to know if there are other options of investing in it, such as, do you guys know about any cryptocurrency ETFs maybe that could be a
Mm,
little less risky, a little less expensive, maybe a
mm,
little safer for somebody who doesn't fully
mm,
understand the whole thing yet?
mm. I would say actually, thank you very much for this question because it's something I forgot to mention. So it's something that yeah I've heard in the past too. So now Bitcoins is at $11,000 US dollars, but the thing is that it's the value of one Bitcoin. You don't have to buy one Bitcoin, so it's not like a stock where you actually have to have at least one. So it's just the value of the money. So basically, if you want, you can buy 10% of a Bitcoin. You can just convert your money into Bitcoin, and how it's called in terms of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is composed of Satoshi, which is Satoshi Nakamoto. So like you can buy Satoshis of it. So it's like parts of Bitcoin. So that's why you don't have to put like $11,000. If you want, you can put $500 if you want, and you're gonna have part of a Bitcoin. And for me, what I did, for instance, is that I always like put a little bit. So I'm keeping some money in the bank. I'm putting some into Bitcoin. And, at the end, I'm just like, I have money on both. And eventually you're going to have one Bitcoin unless it goes super high and like it's going to be hard to reach. But yeah, you don't have to put in $11,000. That's a really good news.
Okay, that's
So,
great. I guess my next question is, you
And
mentioned,
actually, just
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
no, go ahead with your question.
You also mentioned being part of a getting into the
mhm,
network or something like that. Like, I didn't fully understand that
mhm.
part.
Okay.
What network? Do you have
Mhm,
recommendations for here? Somebody trading from here in Canada? Because I remember trying to trade Bitcoin when I thought understood a while
mhm,
back, and it was not legal, I guess.
mhm.
So my platform was not accepting it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, perfect. So to be part of the network, so that's the difference we were talking about before, is that you don't really um, like you cannot really trade Bitcoin. So like if you trade the Bitcoin, you don't have a Bitcoin or you don't own Bitcoins. So I'm gonna share an app after on the group. So it's the app that I use, and on this app, basically, they're gonna it's an app to be part of the network. So basically, you go, I don't know if you even have to sign up, but what's going to happen is that they're going to give you the public key and the private key I was talking about. And that's the only thing you need. Then, like, if you have that, you download the app, you go, you're part of it. And at this point, if you want to put money into Bitcoin, you have two choices. Either you can go to a Bitcoin ATM, where you just have to show your phone and the bitcoins are going to be transferred to your account, or you have to go with if you know people that can do the transaction for you. So the main difference if you go with someone that can do the transaction for you is that you can pay less to do the transaction, because if you go to the ATM, it's going to be 15% that you're going to have to pay. But if you go with someone else can make it cheaper for you. I'm going to share that to the group just to make sure that no one is lost and everyone can start
Perfect.
Okay,
if
that would be
interested.
awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
it was.
The name of the app
Uh,
is Coinomi that
as
I'm
well,
using. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. While we are still at her question, Leila's question, there is actually a Bitcoin fund that has been opened on the Toronto Exchange Market. It's called QBTC. I'm going to send it in the chat. It is a Bitcoin fund which has been opened recently, I think in April, and that was created for investors who are afraid to buy Bitcoin. They can actually buy a stock of that particular fund, and it is kind of mirroring the action of Bitcoin, but not at the exact price. As you can see, Bitcoin is at 11,000, but this one is at $13, and that's in
So it's like
Canadian.
an ETF.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's kind of an
I like that.
ETF.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
another thing in regard to transactions, there is an app. It is also a Canadian app, a Canadian company actually. It's called CoinDesk. So they're using they can deposit the money in your account via Interact, and and you can buy Bitcoin from them via Interact as well at a 1.5% commission, I believe. However, there have been there is some lawsuits, class action going with them because of they have been doing some price manipulation. So currently, I'm not working with them, but well, after that, they will be settled and they will receive some fund and stuff. But then they will have to go back to the like to be they will have to go to a clear transparency in their transaction.
That's
So
awesome.
just so
Thanks
you
for
know,
the info.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks. That's really interesting. Just a question here. The stock Mara, mm, Mara and cryptocurrencies. Sorry, there's just a question. What is the relationship with stock Mara and cryptocurrency? I don't know this stock. Um, I have no idea what is this stock.
Do you know the name of the company? Since that's just a symbol, that might help out a bit better.
Mhm. Marathon Patent Group. Patent Group, this one.
It's a
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
the right
mining
one.
company.
It owns cryptocurrency mining machines in a data center. Yes, in Quebec. Oh, okay. I don't know exactly. If they do mining,
Oh,
um, yeah, I guess makes sense to. It's a good thing. The thing with mining is that I'm not sure exactly because according to the algorithm, I'm not sure how. I think that the more the Bitcoin evolves, the harder the algorithm is hard to or it's harder to solve the problems, right? So the more expensive it is to mine. That's the only thing
Yeah.
I know about like mining. So it's
And
something to know also.
also with the mining companies, as you mentioned before, really just understanding the industry and what they do. For mining companies, what also will reflect their stock price is how efficient they are. So the more efficient they are, the more technology, or let's say they found a cave where they don't have to use much electricity and they can set things up in there, then their stock will go up because the cost per revenue is very good. The ratio is very good because it's not
Mm-hmm.
costing them much. But if the company's mining, but they're using all these electricities, they don't really have too much solar or whatnot, then that will reflect in their stock price as well.
Yeah. And it's something true. A lot of people like to mine in Quebec because I think the electricity is
The
cheaper
electricity is
sometimes.
cheaper.
Or like,
Yeah.
So if you're interested, you can buy a server in Quebec.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin. What is the difference between both? Emmanuel, do you know what is the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum and Dogecoin?
I don't know about Dogecoin, but Bitcoin is actually, as you said, Bitcoin was kind of the first cryptocurrency created, and it kind of laid out that blockchain technology and the idea of digital money. Ethereum is pretty much the same. However, Ethereum has been built in a way that it helps other company integrate the blockchain technology to their services. So Ethereum I can say it's kind of the, you know how you have a computer with a motherboard and then you can build something on top of it. Ethereum has been built like that. Ethereum is kind of the basic of blockchain technology. And now all other cryptocurrencies or blockchain companies, they are built on top of Ethereum. So if the technology of the blockchain technology goes higher, probably Ethereum will be affected. And of course, Ethereum is also working based on like the cryptocurrency, which is also Bitcoin in one way, in one sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that is a little bit clear, but Dogecoin is, so now there is a bunch of technology now and a bunch of projects, and they comes with different names. You need to do a little bit of research before investing in any of this technology or any of these projects.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, there's also XRP, which is Ripple. Ripple is a project that helps financial companies to how can I say that? Like to send money, especially like fiat money. Wow, fiat money, which is paper money. So XRP is a project that helps financial companies, like traditional financial companies that we know, to transfer money, like companies like Western Union, companies like MoneyGram. They help to transfer that money with a cheaper service rather than sending the money that charge more service fees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you need to know the project. Like you can do a little bit research, learn about the project itself, and then you do more research to understand if you really want to invest in that project and if you believe it is something that's gonna answer a problem.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can go like on the website I'm showing right now. It's Coin Market. So there is all of the cryptocurrencies. So if you want to look for some of them, I assume, let's say XRP that you were mentioning, there is a website. You can go on the website and then they tell what's the purpose, like what is XRP, right? So
yeah, and also be sure to send that link to the group as well, Bryce.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Hopefully that answered your question, Alex. But I don't know much about Dogecoin as well, so I cannot say. I don't know anything about it, so I cannot say much.
Maybe one other currency that we can talk about is USDT, or those how do we call them? Like stable coins. They call them stable coins. So they don't change values. Their value is like considered to $1.
Oh yes, you're right. There are cryptocurrencies,
USDT,
as you mentioned, that mirror a certain country's value of their currency. Yeah.
USDT, right? Tether.
Yeah. So it's basically American money, just digital. So whatever the American dollar is, that's what that currency would be.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. So yeah, I invite you, if you have time, to I'll send the website. If you guys are interested in knowing about other cryptocurrencies, it's always project. Some people try to solve different issues. So you can take a look at them and see if you're interested, as Emmanuel mentioned. You can invest in some. Yeah, for sure. If you have any questions to like how to invest into certain cryptocurrencies, you can ask it in the group or ask it directly to me on WhatsApp, so I can help you with that. And same thing for Bitcoin. If you want to know more things, I'm gonna send a form just to know what you would like to know more about the Bitcoin, and according to that, we can maybe like direct our next meetings. So I think that is it for now. It's 7:30. So yeah, thank you guys for joining, and I'm gonna send everything to the chat. It was recorded as well, so I'm gonna send the video tomorrow. So thank you guys, and have a great evening.
Thanks, Bryce.
Thank you, Bryce.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.